What's the thing that you've ever done that keeps coming back to haunt you? You get nightmares about it, and no matter how hard you try, it just won't go away. For Cameron Herron, this was the worst day of his life. He had just graduated from high school and was super excited about starting college. But then something happened, a huge mistake that ended up destroying the lives of everyone involved. Let's dive in. It all started with a shiny new graduation present, a black Ford Mustang that he got from his mom and dad. Cameron couldn't wait to see the awesome machine in action. He loved the loud and powerful roar of the exhaust as he sped on the open streets of Tampa, Florida. On May 23, 2018, Cameron and his brother Tristan went to a local gym to meet up with Cameron's friend John Bariano. The two had graduated from Tampa Catholic High School 2 days earlier. After the gym, Cameron and his brother got into the Mustang, while John got in his gold Nissan Altima. The two vehicles stopped next to each other at a traffic light and then suddenly sped off along one another, racing and trying to outdo each other. Cameron was going at 100 miles per hour, and the thrill was just on another level. The two cars were weaving between other motorists, switching lanes as they sped up Bayshore Boulevard. Then something terrible happened, bringing the race to a tragic end. Cameron and John were so caught up trying to outdo one another that they didn't see the woman with a stroller trying to cross the street. John saw her first and immediately swerved out of the way, but that made Cameron weave away from the Nissan directly into the young mother. He screamed in horror as the woman and her stroller went up in the air. He couldn't breathe or move for a while as he stared out in terror. Everyone in the street was rushing to help the woman. Some were crying in disbelief and shock. What just happened? The injured woman was lying on the grass, bleeding and slipping in and out of consciousness. All she could think about was her daughter. The girl was just a few feet away. Her cheeks had turned blue, and she had bruises all over and a scrape on her head. Her breathing was slow and labored. The woman was Jessica Robinault, and her daughter was called Lilia. She was visiting her uncle from Ohio and had decided to go for a walk along the scenic waterfront sidewalk. Her husband David was also in the city trying to get his pilot's license. The two met while studying at Kent State University, where Jessica also worked at the campus eatery. Jessica was into diet and nutrition and hoped to help people make healthy food choices. After graduation in 2016, she married her college sweetheart, and they were soon blessed with a beautiful daughter. When David saw the backed up traffic, he hoped that no one was hurt, but had no idea the tragedy he was about to face. He then turned down to a side street to avoid traffic and drove to Jessica's uncle's house. David had called Jessica a few minutes earlier to tell her that he was on the way, but when he got there, no one was home. David stepped outside and saw police cars and the crowd of onlookers who had gathered at the scene of the accident. He thought that Jessica was among them and went over to search for her. But then he saw something that sent a chill down his spine, a crashed stroller that looked a lot like the one he often pushed his daughter around in. When he got to the scene, his worst fear was confirmed. He was told that his wife and daughter were at Tampa General Hospital, and someone offered to take him there. David was distraught as he rushed through the corridors of the hospital. He found out that his wife had tragically passed away shortly after getting to the hospital, and that his daughter had a brain injury that could not be operated on. Lilia died the next day, and David's life as he knew it came crashing down around him. Cameron and John were both arrested and charged with vehicular manslaughter and unlawful racing on a highway. Cameron's brother Tristan was also accused of knowingly riding in a car racing on the highway. They pleaded not guilty and were released on bail. Before the judge could set a date for the trial, the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world. Also, Cameron and John's lawyers tried every trick in the book to delay the hearing. Eventually, the much-awaited case went to court on January 4th, 2021. But just before the case even started, John took a plea deal and agreed to plead guilty to the 2 vehicular manslaughter charges and the misdemeanor racing charge. He was sentenced to 6 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of probation. Cameron also pleaded guilty but was not given a plea deal. His fate lay in the hands of a judge. The sentencing hearing was in April 2021, and both the defense and the state brought their witnesses to plead their case. The defense said that Cameron made a huge mistake and didn't fully understand the consequences of speeding. They brought in a psychiatrist who testified that scientifically, the brain of an 18-year-old isn't fully developed and wired the same way as that of someone in their 20s. Cameron's mom, Cheryl Herron, begged the judge to have mercy on her son, saying that her family had also suffered since the incident.
This past almost 3 years has been the hardest thing I've ever gone through, and the hardest thing our family, the 4 of us, have had to go through.
Cheryl called the crash a tragic accident and said that her son didn't mean to hurt anyone.
The impact plays over and over in his head. It'll never go away. And he's going to have to figure out a way to live with this for the rest of his life.
She also told the judge that she blamed herself for the incident and that if it was possible to take the punishment for her son, she would do it. She apologized on behalf of her family, saying that she and her husband were willing to sell their house to pay Jessica's family. Jessica's mom, Pamela Reisinger, was also at the hearing. She said that while she felt sorry for the Herron family, nothing compared to the loss of her daughter and granddaughter.
So I don't want to seem that I don't feel for the Herron family, I do. But their perspective on what they've lost, they are two sweet souls crossing the street coming home from a party.
David gave an emotional testimony that went on for 45 minutes, speaking directly to Cameron and telling him how his reckless behavior hurt many people.
I remember seeing a chaplain walk out and I knew she was dead. I can't explain to you the effort and courage it takes to walk into that morgue and see the injuries that you created on her body.
He described his wife as a caring and loving person who hated to inconvenience anyone. He also spoke of the pain he feels every time he enters his daughter's room and sees the empty crib she used to sleep in, how he sees his nephews playing and imagine what his daughter would look like at their age, the toys she would play with, and the kinds of songs she would sing.
I can't get the thought out of my head of the entitled monster who killed them. Something happens to me in this room.
In the end, he begged the judge to give Cameron a maximum sentence of 30 years. The prosecutor then produced logs of Cameron's Mustang that showed how fast it was going just days before the crash. At one point, the Mustang had hit 162 miles per hour. While the judge had considered sentencing Cameron as a youthful offender, the evidence and testimonies made him change his mind. Cameron was sentenced as an adult and got a heavy sentence of 24 years in prison.
Sentenced him to 9 years in the Florida State Prison. On count 2, same charge. Court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison.
You can see how totally shocked he was as the judge read the sentence. He never imagined that a single wrong move would land him in prison for half of his life. After the sentencing, David spoke in a press conference, saying that he hoped that the sentencing would stop such incidents from ever happening again.
Although this won't bring my wife back, I hope that this sentence will inspire younger folks to behave in a manner that is appropriate amongst our streets.
Cameron's lawyer has since appealed the sentencing, arguing that the judge went way overboard when he handed such a heavy sentence. He's asking the court to give Cameron a second chance. The Robinault family tragedy touched the hearts of so many people. 2 GoFundMe pages were set up by David's relatives and friends, and so far they have raised a total of $96,000. The case also sparked an outcry from the community. It led to some changes along Bayshore Boulevard, including more stoplights and a reduced speeding limit. Hundreds of people have gathered for vigil prayers where the young mother and her daughter lost their lives. The family donated Lila's organs and said that they've forgiven the 2 boys since it was what Jessica would have wanted. She would want us to pray for the families of the boys and forgive them, with the hope that forgiveness would change their lives. I just can't begin to imagine the anguish that David Robinault is going through right now. Losing a loved one is never easy, but this man lost the love of his life and his daughter all at the same time. That's not something that you can easily get over, but I hope that his days will get better with time. Rest in peace, Jessica and Lila Robinault. That's the end of today's video. What do you think about the case? Did Cameron deserve the stiff punishment? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section.